It's an interesting subject, fear, because when it comes to higher consciousness, when it comes to heart, when it comes to enlightenment, fear is one of the main obstacles in the way.
How did you deal with fear in your life as a seeker before awakening?
I can only talk about my own personal experience with fear, and I discovered that people tried to use fear to control me when I was very little. Firstly, my parents, then my school teachers. I didn't like to be controlled. I was what was considered an uncontrollable child, expelled from 4 kindergartens. And when they tried to use fear to control me, I just refused to be controlled. I refused to serve the fear of the violence they were inflicting on me, which back in my day is how they actually brought kids into line with violence. It turned out that I had ADHD and I was dyslexic, but that wasn't diagnosed until after I left school. And so a tremendous amount of force was brought into play to try to control me. And I just refused to be controlled by fear. You see, fear stops you from having fun. It's a terrible master. People who serve fear don't succeed in life, and they don't have much fun. Because fear will have you not do, have you not go, have you not say. Fear is the enemy of freedom. So I can't remember serving fear in my life.
Do you think you were less frightened than most?
No, I don't know. It's very hard to say. I wasn't other people at the time, so it was hard for me to work out what was going on. I remember I did have a few things that I was terrified of. One of them was sharks, because the guy that taught me how to dive, my uncle Teddy Foster, he got eaten by sharks when his boat capsized up at Geraldton. And I had the misfortune of being at the Royal Show and looking at the display, at the police display. And at the police display there was the boat and what had happened to my uncle and his 2 crew. And what the crew had done is when the boat capsized and broke into 2, it probably got hit by a king wave, they tied a whole pile of buoys together, craypot buoys, and they put themselves inside the buoys to protect themselves from sharks. And when they found the buoys, there was half a dozen different types of shark teeth embedded in the buoys with clothing and other bits and pieces. And I got to see that when I was about 10, and it absolutely terrified me because I was a diver. At the age of 10, I already had my C-class diving license for diving with tanks. And so I had to find a way to face my fear of sharks and still go diving. And so what I did is, before I jump in the water, I would allow the sharks to eat me in my imagination. And I found that by allowing the worst to occur in my imagination, it reduced the power of fear. It disempowered fear. And I discovered that if we want to disempower fear, we allow the worst to happen. If we want to empower fear, we resist it. I have always refused to serve fear. It is a terrible master.
Apart from not serving fear, what other work does a seeker need to do to make fear less powerful and less of a ruling force in their life?
Well, you need to study it. You need to study fear to see what it does, see how it works, understand it. It's only a projection anyway. It's not reality. It's a projection into the future, something you don't want to happen maybe. It's not real. Projections aren't real, they're made up. If fear presents itself, usually the body fires off adrenaline, gets you ready for fight or flight or freeze. The stomach fills up with acid, getting you ready for fight, flight or freeze. It's an interesting subject, fear, because when it comes to higher consciousness, when it comes to heart, when it comes to enlightenment, fear is one of the main obstacles in the way. Fear will stop you from becoming enlightened. It's pretty detrimental. And what's required to overcome fear is courage. The courage to face whatever it is that you're frightened of. The courage to not cave into the fear.
What practices can help overcome the fear of death?
Go diving with sharks, that works. That worked for me. I just wouldn't serve fear. If fear presented itself, I'd walk towards it. People who serve fear don't have much life. They don't have much fun. Fear is essential when we're little kids because we don't know what's dangerous. But once we become adults and we've learned what's dangerous and we know how to be careful, fear is not a requirement. But fear doesn't go away, it's a part of the survival mechanism of the brain. And so you can choose to serve it or you can choose not to. You get to choose.
So do you think is there such a thing as well-placed and wise fear as an adult?
Oh, if something looks dangerous, don't do it. You know, it's really simple. If you're driving your car very fast and you're going around a corner and it looks dangerous, slow down. It's common sense. Or you could just put your foot to the floor and go around that corner.
How can a seeker overcome the fear that comes when touching upon enlightenment and the death of their ego?
That fear is more like terror, because all of a sudden you see oblivion. You see the end of you. And when that occurred, I was looking into the eyes of one of my awake teachers, and I saw the emptiness, and I saw the oblivion, and I felt the terror arise, and I stepped closer.
What does it mean? What do you mean by stepping closer at that moment?
You serve fear, you don't get anywhere. It's really simple. This game of higher consciousness towards enlightenment is for the courageous. The gutless simply don't make it.